welcome back to Life in Surround. I'm sure getting off to a slow start this year. We're almost a couple of weeks in, and this will be my first video of 2019. But I have great excuses. I've done a lot of snowboarding, I have struggled through a minor illness, and I've been back to work full-time. So I've had my hands full, not to mention getting to know and raising a toddler. So I've had my hands full, to say the least. But I'm happy to get things going. I thought it would be appropriate to start this year with a looking forward type video. So I'm going to examine some news for 2019 and some speculations for 2019, and just try to transmit my excitement for what I hope is to come. And we'll see how these predictions work out as the year goes on. So I guess first things first, the last couple or few years have seen two releases from Apple Music, Beatles remixes, and that has been Sgt. Pepper and the White Album. So for 2019, are we going to see Abbey Road? I sure hope so. A lot of people were disappointed with the remix for Sgt. Pepper's, just feeling like it could have been more aggressive, or like certain parts could have been placed elsewhere in the surround field, according to what they had pre-imagined. Some people knocked the fidelity a little bit, stating that certain sonics on other recordings, like the original mono, were crisper or clearer. So Sgt. Pepper's arguably had some room to improve in terms of how well the mix was achieved. The White Album really nailed the remix. It's a fantastic surround experience. Again, there are some people who have some criticisms about the sonics, and I have some minor quibbles myself, but all in all, I think it's an extremely rewarding experience. I think it's an extremely enjoyable listen. So my hope is that Abbey Road is the best of both worlds, that it's a killer surround mix, given that they had lots of multi-tracks to work with, and I think it has always been a sonically superior album to the White Album, just less raw, less rough sounding. So I'm really hoping that we do get an Abbey Road Deluxe with a 5.1 remix, lossless on Blu-ray, and that it's just the best Beatles remix yet. At many points during the past, we've gotten King Crimson albums, either as solo releases on lossless DVD audio, or as part of a large box set. So as you see here, I actually own the King Crimson Thrack 40th anniversary box, which just has an incredible amount of 5.1 content. The album, of course, a remix of the album, some live stuff that's super discreet. So I love that box. I happen to really like Thrack, so that box was really worth it for me. And then I have most, if not all, of the King Crimson individual remixes on DVD audio, and I appreciate that option for when I'm not in love with the price or the content of the box set in question. The era of King Crimson for which we neither have a box set or individual albums would be the Construction of Light, Power to Believe era. In stereo, I'm not super duper in love with those albums, but I would certainly be interested in checking out any standalone, lossless surround mix. Not sure about a box set, not my favorite era. XTC. Stephen Wilson has been hard at work remixing a lot of XTC albums over the last few years. 5, maybe 6. I think I have them all. Do I have them all? In any case, 2018 was the first year in quite a while where we didn't get any XTC. Mixed by Stephen Wilson, released on either Blu-ray or DVD audio, lossless. So we're sure hoping that 2019 is a return to form. There have been some encouraging tweets by Andy Partridge. So it's pretty certain that 2019 is going to see another XTC Deluxe Remix edition. The cool thing about these XTC sets is they really are frontrunners in terms of value. They're not generally very expensive. They come with a CD and a Blu-ray or a DVD audio. And in either case, that disc, which holds the surround content, is so packed with goodies that it's almost like a box set on one disc. So if you don't have these XTC sets, do yourself a favor, listen to the album in stereo via your favorite source, YouTube, Pandora, whatever. And if you like the album at all, pick up these sets, particularly before the prices skyrocket. I haven't checked prices on these. I got them as they were released, so I don't know which ones are out of print, which ones aren't, but definitely look into these sets. They are a tremendous value, and I've grown to really love XTC as a result of having these sets. I did not know about the band previous. Steven Wilson, again, has been busy mixing a bunch of Jethro Tull. And I've passed on a couple of the sets just because I auditioned the album in stereo and didn't like it enough to pay the $30 or $40 or whatever these sets generally run until they go out of print, and then they skyrocket. So these sets are a tremendous value. You usually get a few CDs plus a surround disc or two with either concert or the album in surround. Sometimes you get the new remix by Steven Wilson in 5.1 plus the original quad mix if it existed for that album. I can't recommend these enough. Jethro Tull is a band that I obviously knew of before my surround obsession because of radio hits, but I never knew how talented and creative a prog act they were. I just thought they were kind of a weird rock band, 70s kind of whatever. But there's a lot to Jethro Tull that I've discovered as a result of digging into their surround albums. I'm pretty sure that the album coming out this year is Stormwatch. I don't know whether that's going to be remixed by Steven Wilson or not. Does anybody out there know? I think it is, and if it is, I think it's the last one. I think he's going to move on to other bands or concentrate on other stuff. But it could be Jacko Jasic, however you say that, or someone else. Anyway, if someone out there knows who is remixing the next Jethro Tull book edition surround mix, let me know. Chime in, leave a comment. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the next Jethro Tull book. For the community, at least. I'm going to audition the album in stereo and just make sure that I like it. Marillion, a band that has been more or less following the template that Jethro Tull set with these book sets, right around the same size, right around the same type of features. The one thing that I'll say for Marillion above the Jethro Tull sets is that the surround disc is a Blu-ray lossless, whereas the surround disc on the Jethro Tull sets is a DVD video. So you do get high quality DTS on the Jethro Tull discs. It's just lossy. It's not lossless. And I guess certain people are annoyed by DTS encoding or whatever. I happen to think the Jethro Tull discs sound fantastic. But I will always take the lossless version of an audio offering just because I know it's one less stage of mucking about with a mix before it hits my ears. But that said, these Marillion sets have been extremely enjoyable. I tend to find myself drawn more to the Fish era, so I love Misplaced Childhood and Clutching at Straws. Brave really hasn't grown on me. The surround mix does not help. I mean, it does. The surround mix is better than the stereo, so awesome job. Again, Steven Wilson. But the album is just kind of slow and sad and boring. It has a couple of moments that are exciting enough rock music, but I don't know. It just doesn't really do it for me. It's said that Brave was a huge influence on Steven Wilson's Hand Cannot Erase, and in my opinion, just go listen to Hand Cannot Erase, because that album has everything I want. It's got sadness, slowness, fast tempos, bombast, power, delicacy, light, dark. So I'm grateful for having had the chance to hear Brave, but ultimately for me, I think it's going to go in the for sale pile. But I am interested to see what comes next from this series. I'm really hoping for Script for a Jester's Tear or Fugazi, the most. But I hear that it's also possible we'll get one or more Hogarth albums, like Afraid of Sunlight. Anyway, good job, Marillion. I am thrilled with these sets and that they have been offered up. Lots of people love Brave, and I've got my preferences, but I'm very excited about the series and very grateful that they've been coming out in the last couple of years. Rhino Records. Rhino Records has been a bit of a dynamo the last few years. We've gotten the Doors Best Of album on Blu-ray, along with a couple CDs of mono material. But, most importantly, to date, Chicago Quadio. Holy crap. This is one of the coolest surround collections ever to be released on this planet. This box set contains 9 Blu-rays spanning Chicago's first 10 albums. One album was skipped because it was a live album, and I'm not sure it had a quad mix or not. But Chicago, to their tremendous credit, remixed their first 8 studio albums and Chicago 9, which is a best of compilation, in quad back in the day. And I think they were all available on quad LP. But those master tapes were found and were transferred losslessly to Blu-ray, and so for the first time ever you can hear these quad mixes as clear and as powerful as you're ever going to, because there are some difficulties decoding quad LPs. So this set is just an incredible value. There's so much awesome music in this box. The last time I made my way through it, it took me at least a week, and it was a lot to take in. So I will be listening to this for years and discovering more and more awesomeness about early Chicago. Mainly rock band up front, horns in the rears. That totally works for me, and it set a template for a lot of other groups that have mixed in such a way in surround, including myself. Anniversary box or book sets. What are we going to get this year? It's the anniversary of 1969, 1979, 1989, 1999, and then those in-between years. What would that be, like 2004, 94, 84, etc. If you want to go like 35th anniversary or 45th or whatever. But for those round numbers, 50th, 40th, 30th, I think we have some pretty good odds of getting at least 1 or 2 per year. Last year, we were treated to Jimi Hendrix' Electric Ladyland and John Lennon's Imagine, both of which are delightful to me. I'm ecstatic that they came out. In both cases, the surround mix, to me, sounds as good as the albums ever have. You get clarity of parts, separation, mostly tasteful placement of instruments and voices and stuff. I'm not in love with all the elements of either surround mix, but it's an enjoyable enough experience. It sounds the best that these albums ever have to me, and so these are just an absolute win in my opinion. On the Imagine set, you not only get the album freshly mixed in 5.1, but you get the original Quadrasonic mix, and you get a bonus surround treatment of the album in raw format, which is super discreet. In a lot of ways, it kind of emulates some early quad stylings where you have instruments hard panned into the corners of the room. It's just cool that the album was released with a surround remix, and that you get actually quite a few surround options, and you can choose which one you like best. With Electric Ladyland, it was remixed by the original sound engineer on the Electric Ladyland project, Eddie Kramer. I'm not in love with every decision, but it certainly is an interesting listen, and it generally builds on what the stereo set out to do, being kind of crazy with some panning, and I think it honors the music. And I will be listening to it quite a few more times, and eventually I'll give it an in-depth review. But I'm just excited to see what might come out in terms of anniversary, deluxe, or standalone offerings. What do you think is on the horizon in terms of anniversary reissues? I'm also excited to see if we get any more surprise Elliot Scheiner mixes coming out of the woodworks. I'm not sure exactly when he remixed Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction into 5.1, but with the exception of a couple of sonic difficulties with Michelle and Think About You, it's an outstanding 5.1 mix of the album. It absolutely is just jaw-droppingly awesome. It must be heard to be believed. And until it was announced last year that it was coming out and that Elliot Scheiner had worked on the project, the world didn't really know that. So what else is in the vaults? And along those same lines, we have Elaine Mallet, or Elaine Mallet, Mutt Slang. This is kind of a jazzy, weird, fusiony kind of thing. I really love it. It has an Elliot Scheiner and Matt Scheiner mix, and again, it was done a while back, and then only released, a bit later. So again, I just wonder, what's in the vault from the godfather of surround? What are we going to get from Elliot Scheiner this year? I'll be severely disappointed if it's nothing. Sony Japan, over the last few years, they've released some exciting titles, like Miles Davis' Bitches Brew. I haven't made my way through Bitches Brew enough to be able to give what I feel is a valuable review, but eventually I hope to. But I do love it. I love that it even came out. This was a classic quad LP, recently mastered to SACD, so that's a lossless digital surround format. And it's fabulous. It's awesome. The album is bizarre and weird and I think a little bit inaccessible, but it's also adventurous and exciting and a lot to sink your teeth into. So I'm glad to have it to devour and to try to understand and to enjoy more and more. I think I enjoy it more every time I put it on. In regard to Miles Davis fusion stuff, I slightly prefer In a Silent Way, but this is obviously an iconic landmark album with just awesome musicianship on it, so it's worth digesting and investing the time to really dig into it. What's coming this year from Sony Japan? I hope it's something awesome. Tears for Fears. The rumor has it that we're going to get Seeds of Love this year. If so, is it going to be locked in a big box set, or are we going to get a standalone such as with Songs from the Big Chair? I think Songs from the Big Chair is fantastic. When the time comes to pre-order, I'll give Seeds of Love an audition in stereo just to make sure that it works well enough for me to invest in. But that's just me. A lot of people out there probably already love Seeds of Love and can't wait to hear it remixed into surround. Dutton-Vocalion. Holy smokes. To continue the conversation about classic quad masters that have been rescued and losslessly mastered onto an optical surround format, I'm not sure anybody out there has put out more releases than Dutton-Vocalion at this point. They've put out dozens upon dozens upon dozens of releases over the last couple of years, maybe more than the other reissue companies combined. A lot of their content is kind of too easy listening or cheesy for me, but I go in for maybe one out of every 3 or 4 surround offerings that they have put out, and it's so many that I don't have time to get through them all. I'm trying to schedule time to get through them all, but I want to give them all a patient, worthy, attentive listen. And I mean, it's a good problem to have for a reissue company to be putting out more surround music than I can even handle. And I'm curious to see what's coming out. They already released their January offering, and from that group I snagged a Tomita album, because I'm really big into Tomita. So that's in the post. I'm just waiting to receive it and then devour it. I also took the opportunity in January to go back and grab a few albums that I had missed before. Personally, I'm hoping 2019 sees them release a bit more in the way of rock music. Like last year, we got Rick Derringer's All-American Boy and Spring Fever, and we got the Guess Who. So I'm excited to see what comes next. I have a preference for stuff that's more on the rock side, but I love being exposed to new music, whether it's choral or jazz, funk, soul, whatever. So kudos to Dutton-Vocalion for putting out so much classic quad music for us before the master tapes disappear forever, in its full fidelity and full clarity, fully discreet. So these guys are just outstanding, and I can't wait to continue to support their efforts and to enjoy their output. Rush. Man, here's the big wild card. A couple of years ago, we received the extremely awesome box set for Farewell to Kings. Now, some people may be lukewarm on the other contents of the box, not happy about getting vinyl and not really caring about the ring that came with the set and all that. But it is tough to argue with the greatness of the Steven Wilson 5.1 remix of A Farewell to Kings. complete with a bonus Cygnus X2 sound effects, spacey, kind of Hawkwind type bonus track. My friends, that is the way to do a Rush remix. With toms rapping all around the room, parts discreetly separated out, better sonics than I've ever heard on a Farewell to Kings. It is a glorious listen. And then, late last year, we got Hemispheres, which to me is a total disappointment. It doesn't build on the stereo experience, it detracts from it. It didn't do its job, to the point where I've returned my set, and I'm just dismayed to have to say that. Rush is one of my favorite bands. Let me see, can I prove that? There's some R30 for you. There's some Presto for you. And I've got Hold Your Fire on my back as well. So, this year, if they keep pace, we should get a box for Permanent Waves. I have a few questions about that. A, what are they going to draw on for bonus features? They may have a complete Permanent Waves show, as some of the live tracks for Exit Stage Left actually come from the Permanent Waves tour. But is that show in good enough shape? Did the tapes survive? Who are they going to get to do the 5.1 remix? If it's Richard Chaike, I would recommend buying it from a vendor that has a no questions policy about returns. Just saying. But, you know, who knows? Maybe Steven Wilson's schedule will clear up. Maybe another competent engineer will be hired to undertake the project. Maybe Richard Chaike will listen to criticism about Hemispheres and at least mix Permanent Waves as well as he mixed other Rush albums in the past, which are not stellar, but at least they more or less get the job done of honoring the stereo but expanding it out into the room a bit. But it's my ultimate hope that Steven Wilson really just didn't like Hemispheres enough to work on it, and that he does like Permanent Waves enough to work on it. Oh, here's hoping. But my last bit of news for 2019 will have to wait for the next video. It's such happy and awesome news that it deserves its own video. So until then, I just want to say thanks for watching, thanks for your support, thumbs up, thumbs down, leave comments, share the video. I'm grateful for every view and for every comment, every interaction. It's fun for me, and it's nice to see other people enjoying my beloved hobby. And until next time, I'll just remind you that life is best lived in surround.